have come into do policy, regulate, support the management of the organization to achieve its objectives. And so I told the committee that was appointing the boards and things, and I said, as far as possible, make sure you don't send somebody to the same place where he was. In England, they have what they call the busman's holiday. When a driver of a bus goes on retirement, he has nothing else to do. So he goes back to where he used to work and go and sit there the whole day and converse with the drivers and remember how he used to drive. When you send somebody like that back to his own establishment, he thinks that he's come back as a chief executive. And often is a recipe for conflict. But also, if the person has worked in that field, then it means that he's got all the expertise to be able to guide the organization. So it is a very fine line, and I believe that in the discussions we're going to have, a lot of light will be shed on what everybody's roles are, so that we have a public service that is operating properly. From the monitoring we've had, so far we're at about 26 or 27% in terms of affirmative action, gender. And the affirmative action is no longer a bill, it is a law. It is an act of parliament, and so we're supposed to comply. And it says that by 2026 we should be at 30%, and by 2028 we should be at 35%, and by 2030 we should be at 50%. So it means that we do have a shortfall. And I remember when the boards were being constituted, the president has power of appointment for some of the board members, but a lot of the governing boards have institutional representation. And for God's sake, don't you have women in your institutions? Every institution just when you send the names for inclusion in the governing board, and every single one is a man. And I mean, you just find it difficult. I was very embarrassed when we were inaugurating some of the boards, and they were all male boards. It's not acceptable. And so one of the outcomes of this event must be that we must have a system by which we can monitor and make sure that our governing boards are gender balanced. I mean, just looking at this room alone, I mean, the testosterone in this room is overwhelming. And so let's take a look at that and make sure that we're able to achieve the objectives of our affirmative action bill. One of the things that happened in the world was Africa was passed by the various industrial revolutions. The revolution in information technology and all that, we have managed not to be passed by, because Africa in its own way adopted what was the most appropriate path, that is using wireless mobile communications. And indeed we became the world leader in mobile wireless, having more mobile connections than several developed countries. And so it means that we can adapt and not be left behind in the new revolution that is bringing artificial intelligence and all of it. Artificial intelligence can help us to improve our productivity, because all it is about is that somebody has sat and developed algorithms that makes it possible for that artificial intelligence to analyze far faster than the human brain can do. And so it is an instrument that we must look at. We did an AI session for all our ministers and all of them, so that they will understand what this new technology is. And that is not a creature that is going to eat them up, but that they must have an uptake of it so that they can understand and use it as effectively as they can. The private sector is already taking to it like a duck to water, and they're coming up with all kinds of solutions that beat your imagination. Only 2 weeks ago, I was with one of the oil marketing companies, and before they had to shoot 6 manually, and then you don't get real maps. You have to drill before you are able to tell. Today they've attached AI to it. It's able to give them a much better picture and able to tell them exactly where the resource is so that they don't go drilling dry wells like they used to do. So it's something that can improve our productivity, and that's why the public services must not be afraid of technology uptake. We need to explore all the cutting edge technologies that are available so that we can create an efficient public service that delivers, what the people of Ghana appointed us for. My last point will be about accountability, integrity, and honesty. And Toby dwelt on that a bit. Through a party, they are happy. They are not thinking about the responsibility. They are thinking about, the perks of office and all that. And we've seen cases where people have run those establishments like they were their own property. It's not yours, it belongs to the people of Ghana. And they appointed you for a period of time to go look after what is their property and serve them in the best way possible. We must get that orientation in our minds so that when we go, we are able to do what is expected of us in these public services. And so we have laid down procedures. We're supposed to follow procedure in doing the things that we do. It might be cumbersome following the procedure, but it's better to do it so that you're able to track and trace that it went through the normal procedure and that you took cognition of all the things that make you accountable, so that tomorrow somebody doesn't come and then call you to, I heard a song, Ioko Koko. Somebody doesn't call you to Ioko. And so let's follow the procedure set down by law to make sure that we leave office. When you leave office, you must be able to hold your head high. Wake up in the morning and not fear that anybody will call you to come and account for anything, because you did things the way you should have done them. Recently, I've been watching the Public Accounts Committee, and it's so pathetic. Why must we every year congregate at the Public Accounts Committee, and then you hear all kinds of atrocious, things? I mean, recklessness with public funds and resources. And so I have a meeting on Thursday with the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, and others to find a final solution to this Auditor General's report. That persons who lead to loss of public resources, we must have a fast track process to Sawam. Fast track before you see my Sawam, 6 months. Until we do that, until there's a deterrent. We're going to come every year and they say total misappropriation and infractions of found out by the Auditor General is about 15 billion. What we don't know is whether it should be a parliamentary committee or it's a committee not necessarily made of parliamentarians to implement the findings of the Auditor General. Right now what we use is the the ARICs. Every department is supposed to set up an ARIC. But once they come from the Public Accounts Committee, virtually nobody follows up on what's the recommendations that were given. And so the audit reports implementation committees are not working. And so we must find a way where we are able to create a deterrent until people know that you can be held responsible for these things that you do. They'll continue to do the same thing. And so after Thursday, I'm sure we'll come up with some way where persons who are culpable